Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be our monthly ASIC pricing update video. This is going to be for February 2025. And in this series, what we do is we are basically looking for deals, right? We're going to go through a pretty long list of miners and we're specifically looking for those price fluctuations to kind of look for those deals as well as just overall trends, right? Are things going up? Are they going down? Just for those of you who are looking, we can kind of get the best bang for the buck. Okay, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So things are finally starting to drop. Overall ASIC prices currently pretty much across the board, even those more popular ones, have finally started reflecting the current market, right? So we've been following these trends for quite a while. We've noticed that as soon as there's an uptick in price, it's within the hour, sometimes in that same day, that prices will increase. Now, when the inverse happens, when we start going down, it takes a long, sustained downtrend for prices to start going down. For the most part, a lot of times, it's not a quick shot. It's a trickle, and finally, we have hit that point, right? It's been a kind of rough past couple of months, and prices are finally starting to reflect that. Okay, so currently, as of now, you can see BTC being the big dog, down to 84,000. It's been hovering between 84, 83, which is pretty significant considering we were at 109,000 not too long ago. But because of BTC going down, guess what? A lot of the alts are down big time. Although it does seem like they are getting to the point now where they are kind of oversold. We've been in this range for the past few days. BTC is continuing to go down, which typically the alts crash even harder. It's now to the point today, though, there are actually some alts that have been pumping, even with BTC going down further, which is kind of interesting, right? So to me, that's kind of starting to trigger an oversold territory, although we don't know, right? BTC being this close to that 77K number we're talking about, it's possible we go down significantly from here. And if that does happen, then alts will definitely just follow along with it, right? So will this be over the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks? We have no idea, but finally it's to the point though where a lot of the major alts have gone down pretty significantly. One of the most popular ASICs overall are the Scrypt ASICs, and we can see Doge has definitely been under that 30 cent range we have been talking about, which some of the previous dumps kind of held that range. It's down under 20 cents currently, right? So kind of a big deal, although oddly enough, one of the better performers in general overall has been freaking Litecoin. Litecoin has bumped up all the way to number 12 this thing. Why? Because a lot of the other big caps are dropping and Litecoin has actually been doing well. We can see here on the 24-hour chart, it's gone up nearly 10%. It's currently at 122 bucks. So even with Scrypt ASICs, yes, you do mine Litecoin. It's not very much of your overall rewards. In fact, it's a small little trend, but we can kind of see the overall trend here over the past month. It's kind of interesting. There are a lot of, not necessarily just rumors, but it's seeming to be pretty likely that we are going to get a Litecoin ETF, potentially even a Doge ETF, which would be kind of funny in a way. But potentially that's why, but it's just a very interesting chart overall. Right, but overall sentiment though definitely down in the dumps, and that's why prices of these ASICs are finally starting to reflect it. Although it's not the massive downtrend maybe we would like to see, it's definitely in that direction though, right? And as we look at overall miner profitability, the top dogs, or the top dog period, is the iceriver, Aleo, the AE0. Of course, the A0 and the little AEBox Pro are going to be in the top just because currently, number one, the A0 is not even out yet, right? So we do have the specs and such. Oddly enough, still hasn't even been officially confirmed by iceriver, although we pretty much have a guarantee that it is going to be coming out in these next few weeks. The AEBox and AEBox Pro have been out in the wild, but unfortunately, because of the mining sentiment, everything going on, doesn't seem like they're selling a ton because the hash rate hasn't necessarily reflected a lot of increase. The price profitability has gone down, but it's also because Aleo's price has gone down along with the rest of the market, right? As we scroll down the list, the Hydro units don't really pertain to us, so those are 2 and 3. We don't care. The X44P, also kind of irrelevant because it's not even out, right? So this one has been on the top here for quite a while, but it's not even released yet. The first other miner is the Volcminer D1, right? And they have it listed. So this is the new model. This is the new big boy, 18.5 gigahash, which Crazy wattage though, right? 4,250 watts. So definitely a big boy. And this guy at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, this is currently set to 10 cents, is raking in currently about $15.53. Of course, a lot of that is because of the major downtrend in the market, with Doge being under 20 cents and the fact that the hash rate difficulty just continues to increase with Scrypt, right? So even the L9, the more common model being the 16 gigahash models, down to 14 bucks a day. But just keep in mind, when the market recovers, obviously this is going to change. But because of these profitability numbers going down, guess what? It's not as popular, or it's not as easy pill to swallow to spend 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 grand that this thing was not too long ago, right? So prices have been coming down because of the profitability, right? So will it sustain at this point? We're going to have to wait and see. But again, the vendors and resellers finally reducing those prices is kind of giving less confidence in the market, right? So we haven't seen that they're always going to be right, though. We have seen downtrends like this, which were sustained for quite a while. And then not too long after, like these bigger price reductions, things start to pick up again, right? So a lot of this is going to be timing. Although we don't know what's going to happen here, right? Things can continue going down. Maybe things start going bullish here in a few weeks. Hard to tell. Again, we talked about it in that other video. Just so many things going on that are in limbo, and until we have more certainty, this is probably going to be the name of the game for a while, right? Realistically, sometime in April, maybe we can get a little bit more clarity, or even as soon as in a few weeks, right? There's threats of a potential government shutdown, FOMC meeting in the middle of the month, these tariff situations, the deadline being April 1st. Once we get some clarity there, some more certainty in the market, things will likely improve, at least whether it's going up or down, we'll at least have a little bit more clarity, right? But just factor all those things in when we're looking at these prices. Now let's get started with some of these prices. Most of the effects have been with the Scrypt ASICs, right? That is where the popularity is. Those are the ones that did see the bigger price fluctuations. Although essentially a lot of them did go down just because of the profitability, right? We'll go through them very quickly here. One notable one, a popular one that looks like it is releasing. I know some of the other content creators have said that they are getting one. It is en route, so it does look like they are going to meet this February window, which again, when they put the months, that typically means it's shipping at the end of that month, right? The window is pretty much mid-February to end of February. Typically, it's literally the last weekend in February when these things ship. If they do make it, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But February batch, $1,800. April batch coming down 2 months later is $1,400. So this is where it kind of gets tricky, because technically in a week we're going to be in March. So it kind of makes you want to say, okay, I'll just wait for the April batch to say $400. Again, factor in that it's probably not going to ship until the end of April, meaning you're not going to get it until May. Is saving $400. You got to consider how much revenue you can yield during that time, right? So it's up to you to calculate it, see if it's worth it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. This guy though, it is a brand new model. This is something they haven't done before. We're gonna have to wait and see. Quality wise, price wise, excellent, especially at $1,400. Almost seems like a kind of a why not kind of thing, but we're going to have to wait and see, right? So definitely an interesting form factor. It's interesting also just because it's efficient, right? We've had these gold shell boxes for generations, but none of them have ever really been up to par with the big boys, right? This is the new trend we've been seeing, is that they are actually on par with those bigger units. And in this case, even being on par with like the latest and greatest bitmain L9. Okay, so definitely interesting, because again, you're getting a smaller piece of the pie, because again, it's not very appealing to spend 10, 12, 14, 16 grand on an ASIC, right? But being able to get a smaller slice of it, definitely a little bit more appealing, right? So this is one that did drop down a little bit. This guy is under $1,400 now. Again, it's been going down like $50, $100 here and there, just kind of dripping down, but not a bad price point. Let's continue down. So the L9 is kind of the interesting one, because this is where a lot of the focus has been, a lot of the attention has been, and it finally is dipping down. Okay, so currently in stock prices, the 16 gigahash model is officially under 10K now, so $99.99. There is a 16.5 gigahash variant now. It's 10.3, so 10,300. The 17 gigahash model is right under 11K. So Nhash doesn't have it listed. Some of the other vendors do have 15 gigahash models also, and some of those are in the low nines, right? So I have seen vendors list as low as like $92, $9,300 shipped, which is pretty damn appealing, right? So, and again, a lot of this is because of the downtrend in the market, and this is kind of the danger with pre-ordering things so far ahead of time. I know there's quite a few of you guys who ordered back in like November for this April batch at these prices, right? So it kind of sucks now that there's availability now for that same price, and actually that 15 gigahash model beating that price, and you're able to get it a couple of months ahead of schedule, right? So it's definitely one of the dangers with pre-ordering so far ahead of time. You have to be kind of fully convinced that anything can happen, right? So just definitely something to keep in mind for any of you guys who are interested in these things. But it is kind of interesting now. How much lower will it go? It's just going to depend on this downtrend, right? Would I put a whole lot of money into it going a lot lower from here? Not necessarily, especially for that 15 gigahash model. Unfortunately, they don't have that model here listed. But that model being like right around $9,000, not a bad deal, right? So let's continue down though. And just to give kind of like clarity, just for comparison's sake, the 16 gigahash model is 11,200 for Miner Bros. So there is a difference, right? There's always that 10% variation with Miner Bros being a little bit higher. But they do actually have the 15 gigahash model at 10.4. So just something to keep in mind that it is kind of high on the higher end, right? But it's just kind of giving us a price comparison. Let's go down the list. So this is another interesting thing that has happened here. We talked about the June batch, right? They did that restock a few months ago, listing a June batch, which to me kind of signals that that's going to be a massive, massive batch if they're pre-ordering batches 6-7 months ahead of time. So now actually there is a March batch listed. So it does seem like whatever they're producing, just probably because of the current market, they're like, well, let's start selling what we can now in case prices go lower. Okay, so there are new L7s. These are going to be new models. There is a March batch coming, $5,300. Okay, so for any of you guys who currently have L7s, congrats if any of you guys sold them a few months ago, back when they were like selling for between 7 to 10K. Congrats to you, because it looks like prices may be coming down, at least for now, right? At least until Doge ends up recovering or pumping up again. But just something kind of to note, realistically, ideally I would want more efficiency. I think the worst efficiency I would be willing to buy right now would be the AlphaPex units. Although arguably these, if you go into low power mode, it does come fairly close to the AlphaPexes. Okay, so just something to take note of there. So these guys also did drop. So the 14.4 gigahash model, it's down to $8,500, right? Or actually $89.99. It's 14 gigahash. That's at $8,500. So not a bad deal overall. To me, though, again, at this price point, with the L9 being now under 10K for the 16 gigahash model, this is still the better value in my opinion, right? Overall efficiency is better, arguably a better unit here also, right? So although this one did go down, my opinion, not down low enough, right? Probably another $1,000, maybe like $69.99, $7,500. That would potentially be more ideal, but it is just something to take note of, right? But especially considering the fact that we're talking about there's the 15 gigahash models being right at like 9,000, 9,200. Definitely this thing would have to come lower just because the L9s are a good chunk more efficient, right? It's one thing if it's a 5% difference or something, but it is a pretty significant difference. Let's continue down the line. So this is another one that's been getting popularity just because there's been a lot of videos, right? A lot of the other big creators, they did officially get a unit. So now we have seen that it is real. It is in production. There's quite a lot of them who did get these units. So it does seem like production's ready. So anybody who did order the earlier batch probably should be shipping here if it hasn't shipped already for that February batch, right? We're now towards the end. They do have an April batch listed, and it is significantly cheaper, right? For this price difference, I would probably wait for the April batch, as long as you have confidence that they're going to actually get it to you in April, right? So we do know initially this one was announced like in November, December. There were batches for those time frames. Obviously, they did not meet those time frames as well as the January batch. So you got to factor in that they have to make up for all those orders that came out initially, and hopefully they're going to be on time with this April batch, right? So it's kind of hard to tell. We don't really have any production idea numbers. They haven't really said a whole lot. But if you feel confident that you're probably going to get this in April, $3,300 for these stats, not bad at all, right? So just keep in mind, though, the one thing I did know from people's reviews is that it was a good chunk higher than the 1200 watts that are listed. The 1200 watts is ideal because you could technically have it on a 15 amp circuit. It's pushing the edge, especially at 1400 watts. So just factor that in if you're considering doing that in a spare bedroom on its own circuit or something, right? Because it's essentially going to 100% max it out, right? So just kind of factor that in, as that is kind of a big difference, right? So something to take note of there, but $3,300, not bad. And almost all the vendors now have it listed, right? That was kind of a sketchy thing in the beginning, is that there was only like 1 or 2 vendors listing them. Now all of them do have them listed. Does seem like there is more confidence in this thing overall, right? So something to take note of there. The D1, the Volcminer unit. So this is one that probably needs to go down more, right? So currently the 16 gigahash model, it's down to 10.3 or 10.4. They do have this new model listed now at 18.5 gigahash, 4,236 watts. So hefty unit. And you are paying for the heftiness. It's at $12,000, right? And the fact that it's so close to the L9, we don't know a whole lot about Volcminer's reliability, and when you're spending this much money on a unit, this kind of arguably late in the game, I personally want something that I have more confidence in, right? For me to take the risk on a lesser known manufacturer, it needs to be priced for me to be tempted to take that risk, right? So, for example, this guy being so close to the L9, I'm going to go for the L9 all day. For this unit to be more appealing, specifically more this smaller one, maybe down in the $8,900 range, somewhere around there. And realistically, even then, I'd probably still go for the L9. Just because, again, I have more confidence in it being a more reliable unit, right? So overall, we're going to have to wait and see. Hopefully, it is a solid unit because, again, we do want competition in the space. We do want these guys to succeed. But for me personally, if I'm going to spend that kind of dough, I want it to be reliable. I want to get the best, especially if it's right in that range, right? Again, realistically, for me personally, this thing would probably have to be like in the $6,000-7,000 range. Is that going to happen? Probably not, right? So to each their own. That's just my personal preference. I'd rather go with a more efficient unit, with the units that I have more confidence in. Again, with ASICs, the name of the game is longevity, right? To save $500 and to have like not necessarily the full confidence that it's going to survive you at least a year and a half, 2 years plus, not worth it for me. Right now, if it's 20-30% difference, then maybe I'd take that juggle. But even for me personally, I probably still wouldn't. Right? If anything, the ElphaPex unit would be more appealing just because this guy has been around for quite a while now. It's been, depending on people's scenarios, right? I have heard people complain about certain issues, but it does seem to be a fairly solid unit, right? So for me, the confidence would be more here. Although, again, the downfall is the efficiency. It's not as efficient as either of those units. So that is something to factor in. Pricing-wise, to me, that's why I'm saying it does have to be a little bit better, right? So kind of interesting. We'll see if the price goes lower. They're just going to be testing the market and seeing where they go. Obviously, if there's not enough demand, then they're going to have to lower the price, right? Which is kind of what's going on with the L9s. Does seem like they have been sitting, right? In this current market, kind of a tough sell to spend 10 to 12K on an ASIC when a lot of these altcoin prices are so low, right? Just in terms of buying the coin. Let's continue down. Another one that finally did drop. This is one that definitely needed to drop. Is the iceriver AL3. It's down to $2,600, and again, it's because of the profitability. Right, it has been down in the dumps just with Alp's hash rate going through the roof, and the price of Alp just going down pretty massively. Right, so if any of you guys are running this thing residentially, like at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, it's currently losing $2 a day. So definitely not good, especially for something that just came out. For any guys hosting this thing, again, you want to probably be under 7 cents ideally. Let's see if it's profitable at that point. It is, right? So it's essentially basically break even, making about 20 cents, which is good. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, that would be the goal. I mean, it's not good, right? But at the end of the day, at least it's break even or better. You're not at a significant loss. It's kind of what you want. But again, what kind of killed this thing was the popularity of it, right? People seeing that $30, $40 profitability, and that's what kind of tanked it, right? The price action of Alpha has been horrible, and it's just been alts in general, right? So this is one that has definitely been tough. Even at 2,500 bucks, for me, buy the coin all day, right? And that's gonna be kind of the case with the majority of the others. Again, the main interest here right now is with Scrypt ASICs, just because those are more profitable and have a chance to continue to be profitable, right? Arguably right now is a very good test, because right now prices are down in the dumps, and what's profitable still? Those Scrypt ASICs. Okay, so that's definitely where the mind share is going to be. That's where the interest is going to be, and that's why kind of we're focusing on that the most, right? Because realistically, there are deals on some of the others, but again, when you look at profitability, it just doesn't make sense, right? Right now, 100% makes more sense to just buy the coins on the majority of the other alts, right? Same thing with the KS5. This one did dip down. It's down to 1,900 bucks shipped. Okay, but at the same time, with Kaspa being down under 9 cents currently still, right? Not on a flash wick. We've seen those dips before where it lasted a day. It's been a couple of days now where it's been under 9 cents, right? So definitely makes more sense to buy the coin for pretty much all the other alts at this point, right? Arguably right now, the only one that's really profitable are just those Scrypt ASICs, right? So realistically, the only ones that would kind of make sense are the Scrypt ASICs, but then again, at the same time, 10K on an ASIC when a lot of these prices on these alts are so cheap, me personally, I'm buying the coin, right? It's just, to me, it's going to make more sense. Depends on your situation, though. Depends on what you're planning. But if I were to buy an ASIC, it would definitely be a Scrypt ASIC, right? And it just depends on planning. Depends on your goals, depending on how you're playing it, right? It's not as simple as calculating ROI. Again, things will potentially, it's not 100%, but I have full faith that prices will appreciate sometime between now and the next 8 to 10 months. And these numbers are going to look drastically different, as well as these price points, right? So the play could be to buy it now with the intention of mining on it for the next 4 to 5 months. Maybe if Doge eventually rips, then being able to keep what you mined and then sell that unit potentially at a profit, right? So some people's goals are more short term, some people are more long term. Just depends on how you're viewing it and what the purpose of you buying it is, right? So let's continue down. Another notable one is the V2X. Now it does look like it is shipping, right? And it's the little iPolo ETC ASICs. The appeal here again is the at-home aspect. 165 watts is less than most people's singular GPU, and this thing is 1200 megahash, right? Although profitability wise, obviously it's not going to bring in much, but for 1200 bucks, only 165 watts. This is one of those things that you can run kind of under any condition, right? 165 watts isn't going to make much of a difference on your electric power bill, and it does give you a cheap way to kind of accrue the coin, right? So this is one of those pros and cons thing. Are you going to get rich off this thing? No. Is a way to continue stacking, though, even during times like this where it's pretty tough? Yes, right? The X16Q has dropped a little bit more realistically now because of this guy being available. This thing needs to probably drop more, right? Just because the efficiency difference is pretty massive. Okay, this guy is definitely more. It's 1950 megahertz. It's about a 50% increase, but it's also damn near 3 times the power consumption, right? So 620 watts versus, again, the 165 watts, right? So kind of the same argument here, although it is heftier, right? So although it is, even at my current electric rate, it is at a like 20-cent loss or whatever, it's not enough for me to unplug, right? The goal of this thing is to be able to continue to mine even during these tough times, right? Again, losing 20 cents is going to break the bank. And realistically, 620 watts isn't either, right? So the one benefit to consider here with the Jazz Miner, though, are the 8 gigs of RAM, right? Versus the 5.8 or under on a lot of these others. Okay, so primarily what that's going to affect is ETHW, which lately has been the coin that's been holding up arguably the best. Is it currently the most profitable? No, I think it's Larissa or one of the other crap coins. But to each their own on this one. But in my opinion, probably does need to dip down a little bit. Like realistically, if they were to match the 1249, yes, it's less efficient, but it would get you to consider it more just because you are getting more overall hash rate and the advantage of the 8 gigs, right? But realistically, at these price points, this guy is arguably more appealing, right? Let's go down the list. The other one, these guys have been starting to go down, although we still don't have an official MSRP here yet, right? So this is where it kind of gets tricky. It is a March batch pre-order. We are a few days away from March, and they still haven't officially announced it. I would expect any day now for them to officially announce, just so we can see what the official MSRP is, right? Because we still don't know that. We don't know if it's going to be in this price point. Will it be lower? This is why it's kind of a iffy one to recommend. The other one being the AE Box and AE Box Pro from Gold Shell, which I'm not too big of a fan of just because the efficiency difference is pretty massive, right? And we do know if eventually big boy ASICs will be coming online, these will become irrelevant. The play here with these is you're kind of degenning on the fact of how long it's going to be before those big boys come out, right? Because realistically with Alio's price action, they're not going to come out until they have a really reason to, right? So, because if they were to drop right now, profitability would go down the shitter for everything just because the hash rate would increase so immensely. So realistically, as shitty as it sounds, the longer the shitty price action lasts, the better you are off if you have one of these units, right? Just because it's going to give you more time to stack. You're kind of paying a premium for getting it earlier. Hopefully, maybe you can make your return on investment prior to those big boy units coming out, and then you can potentially make out well. Although, for me, these aren't very appealing just because, again, you're going to have the same situation we saw with the ale box, only potentially faster, right? Just because, again, the efficiency is a very big difference. It's not just, a 20% difference. It is significant, right? Versus at least with the iceriver unit, it's potentially going to be on par with, obviously, their iceriver, their bigger unit. Maybe on par with the bitmain unit. We don't know, right? It's potential. Typically, bitmain at the higher end can be a gen ahead of this thing, and that's kind of where the big risk factor is, right? Well, we'll do eventually a longer in-depth video specifically talking about that because it's one I have been kind of thinking a lot about. But overall, price trends have been going down, right? There are downtrends on some of the other ASICs, but again, like I mentioned, even with the downtrend in price, the majority of them buy the coin, right? It just doesn't make sense. Like there were K83s, there's new models of the K7s. Those things are over 2 years old. Most likely going to get replaced here pretty soon. In my opinion, that's not something I'd personally be into, right? If there was signs that it's going to go up significantly, then sure, I think overall those coins will eventually appreciate. But currently, where prices are right now in this moment, almost every other altcoin ASIC just does not make any sense. It just makes more sense to buy the coin, right? So, of course, when we do those scenarios, it is time-based. That's just currently right now. 2 months from now, if things do eventually appreciate, of course, it's going to look drastically different, right? So this is where at the same time, where if you are interested in some of these other altcoin ASICs, one good thing, especially if it's been out for a little bit, start lowballing offers on like eBay and such, right? Because people during these times, they tend to panic sell. They kind of tend to take whatever, so this is a good time kind of for that. I wouldn't necessarily pay the store prices. If you're interested in some of those older units, this would kind of be one of those times to really throw those lowball offers on any used ones you do kind of see. Okay, so, but for the most part, the rest of them, I mean, we can go down the profitability list, it's just not good, right? Even having cheap electric, in many cases, it's going to make more sense to buy the coin, right? So it's just currently one of those times. Again, things may change here in a few weeks, or they may not, right? We may have this downtrend for the next few months, right? We're going to have to wait and see. But overall, again, the standout here for me is the fact that market is down in the dumps, sentiment is down in the dumps, yet what is profitable? The Scrypt ASICs, okay? So that to me is kind of a glaring standout. Like, yes, things can get worse, but even if they do, I mean, they're still pretty significantly profitable, right? So the bigger thing to see is if there's any more significant drops. I mean, you got to remember, again, back what, August, September, October, the January batches were like 6 grand, right? So there's a potential we reach that point. Maybe would I have full confidence in them going a lot lower from here? Not necessarily, right? Especially if they were to offer a 15 gigahash model from whatever reseller you're going to use. I don't see them going down a whole lot more from here on out, right? Unless like a month from now, like let's say 30 days from now when we do this next update, if prices are even lower, like if they've been in this range and they're even lower at that point, then so anything can happen, right? So a lot of it's going to depend on the price action, specifically with Doge, because remember, Doge did run up pretty significantly right after the election. Okay, so yes, it was at 50 cents not too long ago, 40 cents, and then it was holding that 30-cent range, but just keep in mind, not too long ago, right, back in October, it was 10, 11 cents. Okay, so it has had a massive run up. So because of that run up, this isn't out the window. And if this does happen down here and it does sustain, then those prices can definitely crash, right? What likelihood I'd put that in? Probably only like 20-30%, right? I'm personally not super convinced that's going to happen, but anything can, right? So just kind of be prepared for that if you're looking at one of these things. Hopefully things do start reversing, though. Again, we don't know. Current sentiment would lead me to believe, well, we're going to zero. I personally don't believe that. I personally think that we are going to recover sometime in the next month. Again, just all this uncertainty crap. Once things start looking more consistent, we can get some price appreciation. But let me know in the comments, guys. What are you guys interested in? Have you guys purchased anything? Are you guys still kind of iffy on the market? Are you still kind of unsure? Let me know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.